What's the ultimate dream team for the Tour de France here in 2019? That is what we cover today here on In the Saddle. Steve Schlanger with Christian Vande. It's always such a juicy proposition to try and take guys from one team, put them on another, take the best, group them within the confines of your team bus. Can't do that in real life, but in fantasy, it's fair game. So Christian, you're comprising a team for the Tour de France this year. Put together the 8 riders that you think would best be prepared to race the Tour de France who are currently riding in today's peloton.
Yeah. This is a tough one, borderline impossible, because there's so many people, great people, and personalities, not to mention, and really just trying to think of top to bottom.
Directors' jobs are tough. This is a tough call, right?
I know, but it would be a fantastic job to have if you did have unlimited budget and everyone didn't have a free agency. Starting off the top, I would go with Chris Froome. I think that he's the best Grand Tour rider as it stands right now. I think he still has 1 or 2 great years left with him, and especially going into this year. He's got a lot to prove, especially this first time we haven't seen him in 3rd place, behind one of his teammates as well, kind of like a deja vu of 2012 behind Bradley Wiggins. So I'm thinking of Chris Froome. I'd be my number 1 right now for my leader.
All right, so you've got a general classification leader to start off with.
Can I just say Team Sky? That'd be easy.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be bad. It wouldn't be bad.
It's true. I mean, to be honest, I try to keep a lot of this to be fresh. I mean, so again, I'm just trying to. This is again for argument's sake. Egan Bernal. I can't keep him off my list. For what he did last year, 21 years of age, incredible. Again, I mean, what he did and the poise he had, and sometimes almost, for example, waiting for Chris Froome at one point in time throughout the tour. So, yeah, Egan Bernal is just going to get better. I think he rides well beyond his years already. So I think he's just going to get better, and especially I can't wait to see what he does this year in 2019.
Right. You've taken up your first 2 slots with 2 Team Sky riders. Who's number 3?
Simon Yates. I'm just gonna keep that going right now a little bit more.
Plucking him from the clutches of Mitchelton Scott.
Taking him over. I think it would always be interesting to see, and I know that Dale Brailsford had his eyes on both the brothers, and really, that's like throwing darts. You know, whether I'm going to go with Adam or Simon. I think they're equally as good, but I'm just coming off of what he did in the Vuelta.
Now, what's his role, though? Because you've got Froome as a general classification leader, Bernal, who's great in a lot of respects as a GC rider. So what does Yates do?
Oh, man, I'm letting everyone race. Everyone just goes. There's no radios. You just go for it, guys.
Really?
Oh, no. Come on, this is fantasy. Okay. I want everyone to race. The one thing I hate is when we have such a great team and they're all riding for one another. I hate it that these guys are so good and then riding in the service of somebody else. I want all these great guys just be racing against each other. I want to see more like Bernardino, Le Mans going after each other.
So less of a team concept, and the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Instead, a lot of talented individual riders, and let the best man win.
Exactly.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is fantasy.
All right.
Let's keep with it.
We've got Froome, we've got Bernal, we've got Simon Yates. Who's the next one?
Peter Sagan, of course. I mean, duh. Of course, we got Peter Sagan. We got all the individual stages throughout the Tour de France. So it's not all mountains. So Peter Sagan. And what I love about Peter Sagan, we've seen some amazing teamwork by him. So not only is he just there for himself, when there's service to be done for one of his teammates, he's always there for this. So if you think about Rafa Micah, him and going back and forth, incredible teammate to have as well.
Yeah, see, I like that pick too because, while he's obviously not going to be much help in the big mountains, I mean, here's a guy who can win so many other different stages for you. He can win in the sprints, he can win in the lumpy classic style stages. So, you can have Bernal and Yates and Froome winning in the big mountains and Sagan winning on some of the smaller stages.
Oh, I want top 3 in every stage.
Okay.
So to get a little more greedy, I'm going to go with Fernando Gaviria. So now we're going to do the sprints. We're going to do, maybe Peter be leading out Fernando. Maybe my next guy will even help them with the lead out.
Is Sagan really going to lead out Fernando, though?
Hell yeah, he would.
Really?
Because he's going to win those other stages that Fernando won't be at.
Okay. Does Fernando need more help than just Sagan, would you think? Because there's other GC riders in here on your team so far.
Yeah, I mean, we still have guys.
Okay. Don't want to jump on you. So, all right, so you got Gaviria in there. Who's next?
Julian Alaphilippe. I mean, I love this kid. I mean, he wins often these days, and I don't want to say it's getting tiresome sometimes. He's so young. He's still got so much, like some of these other younger guys. I just like the way he does it and the passion that he shows and how much he puts into it. Okay. Not a big guy, really quick, can go over some nice mountains. another guy who likes to race his bike.
All right. So you started with a couple of general classification riders in Froome and Bernal. You've also added Sagan. You've also added Fernando Gaviria. You got Simon Yates, and adding Julian Alaphilippe most recently. Who's next?
This is where it gets a little dicey, and again, it's endless for what I want to do, but I'm going to have to throw Tom Dumoulin in there. Tom Dumoulin could do pretty much anything out there. We got a team time trial.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just going to absolutely smoke it. And you know what? Honestly, if someone needs to be led out, I'm sure that Tom Dumoulin could whoop some ass in the lead out too. So I think that Tom Dumoulin needs to be in this team because I think he's one of the most talented bike riders out there. Considering how big he is, I almost have flashbacks of Miguel Indurain when I watch Tom Dumoulin and what he could do on the bike, the class that he does. I even like to hear some of what he says in his interviews. So Tom Dumoulin needs to be on that team.
I like that pick too because instantly you've got your time trial winner right there, okay? And you've got a guy, should the other 2 or 3 GC guys falter, I mean, he can also climb, he can also ride for the general classification, and you know, think about how many times these days in the big grand tours we get these windy stages and the crosswinds that split the field. I mean, you got folks like Dumoulin and Sagan out there riding at the front, splittering the field. I mean, that would be huge.
Not to mention Egan Bernal, who's like a crosswind specialist supposedly now after what we just saw in Paris. So yeah, and let's face it, Peter Sagan really doesn't need a lead out. I mean, these guys are like, and him and Fernando really don't need much. So we don't want to dwell on that too much.
All right, keep it rolling.
So I think this is number 8, isn't it?
Yep.
And I'm just going to throw Taylor Phinney in there. Taylor Phinney needs to be. We need to keep it light. We need to laugh in the bus. We spend more time in the bus.
Oh yeah, we need
morale.
That's good.
Call a dermatologist, because we are itching to get started. But first, the cyclist must have his coffee.
We have to think about breakfast. We're not having lunch. We're having lunch on the road, but dinner and in the bus. We need to keep the morale at all-time high. Taylor is one of the funnier dudes you ever have around there.
I whip it on the gravel. That gravolution, baby. I don't have a spare tire.
He always keeps it light, and he could go really fast on the bike.
You think about it, you have so many different styles within the team and guys who can win just about every stage, but the personalities are kind of across the board too, with Phinney lighting things up. You got Sagan with his quirky sense of humor. You know, Froome can be very matter-of-fact, business-like and serious. Julian Alaphilippe is kind of the proper Frenchman, but the killer mentality when he's on the bike. I mean, that's quite an interesting bus ride to the start every day, I would think.
Oh yeah. I mean, the music selection would be strange as well, I'm going to have to assume. So I don't know who, maybe you just have to have one guy. It's like, all right, you're in charge of music. You just can't have people pushing and shoving for that button.
When you think about it, this is a team that could win every jersey available. Yeah. And there's not many stages that they would not be a favorite in.
No, I mean, it's got to be fun. I mean, there's a lot of good guys that we kept off here as well. I mean, you have to, like everything. I mean, Geraint Thomas is not on this list.
Yeah.
That pains me big time to have not have Geraint. Alejandro Valverde is not on this list. That pains me as well. And I got Benatti. You know, I really like having like a guy like Benatti being kind of like overlooking. Someone has a crazy amount. Not that these guys don't all have amazing experience already, but really just having that solid, always someone who's dependable road captain on the road.
Well, speaking of road captain, I mean, you got like a lot of guys with serious street cred and credentials in terms of races they've won, things they've accomplished. So who is the one guy who is the leader of this team?
I would have to say, and this is going to sound really weird, but I'm going to push right now for Chris Froome to be the leader right now, but I think that Egan Bernal needs to be pushed through there immediately as being the future leader of this team. And this would be the guy that they all look forward to. I just have so much confidence in this kid going forward. So as of right now, Chris Froome. And then, Chris Froome or Tom Dumoulin. Those two guys, I think they have the leadership qualities.
All right. So you have your 8. And
they all have leadership qualities. You kidding me? They're all amazing bike riders.
Right.
But it's hard to pick one. But if I'm going to pick any of them,
one more time, run through your list, and I'm going to do mine.
All right. Chris Froome, Egan Bernal, Simon Yates, Peter Sagan, Fernando Gaviria, Julian Alaphilippe, Tom Dumoulin, Taylor Phinney.
Okay. It is remarkable how similar my list is
Seriously?
to you? Because I kind of took the approach, I just didn't throw it out there as a fun exercise that I'm just going to hypothetically, put guys down. But I sort of took a similar approach in that I wanted to have guys who could win all the different stages, all right?
Yeah.
And who could also do multiple things well. And so, obviously Chris Froome, because he's still, I think, the best at riding the Grand Tours.
Yeah.
I put Tom Dumoulin on there because, as I mentioned during your list, you got a guy who can time trial, who can ride in the wind, who can be a backup GC guy as well. Egan Bernal, because of his potential and because of what he can also do now. I mean, remember last year in the Tour de France when he was basically, you mentioned how he was waiting for Froome, but at times, he was the last guy left on some of those big climbs time and time again for Froome and for Geraint Thomas. So, his potential to be a general classification rider, to be that key domestique in the mountains for somebody like Froome, and he's shown the ability to ride in the wind in the flats. He's a crucial guy who is only going to get better because of his age. Peter Sagan, he's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
He's got to be in any list, right? I did put Geraint Thomas on my list because
my only reason I didn't is just because this is getting ridiculous on a little too heavy team.
I understand. I get it. But he obviously showed last year when everybody was saying, you know what, he's going to have that one bad day. He's going to have that one bad day in the mountains where he's going to lose the Tour de France. And I remember thinking, we got to that first rest day, and just having gotten to know him over the years and just seeing the way things were developing, I started to think, I think he's going to win the Tour de France.
And the reason that pained me to keep Geraint off the team because he would have been my leader.
Yeah.
And I think that he's even though Chris Froome was always there, I feel like Geraint Thomas a lot of time is that rock.
Yeah. Okay. So, Geraint has been a great support rider over the years as well, which is another reason I had him, just because he's, and with Froome too, I think you coexist because they're such good friends. Sometimes when you have two leaders in the general classification, you could potentially have internal fighting, clashes, but those guys are such good friends, you can sort it out. As far as a sprinter, you know what, this might be a little unconventional, but I took Caleb Ewan because of faith in the future. I think he's going to get better. I think with having a bunch of guys around him that are strong personalities, great riders, his upside is so great and his learning curve will be shorter because of the quality of guys that I'm surrounding him with here.
Okay.
But everybody else is the same.
All right.
So I
really
think a lot of similar guys on our
only
two rosters.
Only two different guys.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's pretty strong.
So, but, as you said, it's hard to go wrong, swapping out Caleb Ewan and Geraint Thomas for, the guys that you put on your list. So I think that's pretty strong.
You got no morale, though.
Oh, yeah, I don't have Taylor Finney for the jokes and the social media aspect of it. So we're going to be very serious at the dinner table.
No morale.
Okay? I'm going to crack the whip. That's
We'll be in the corner laughing at you.
All right, so many different ways to go on this. Our dream teams are pretty similar. What do you think as you look ahead at this year, the Tour de France in 2019? How would you cobble together the ultimate dream team for the Tour? Let us know in the comments below here on In the Saddle.